On today's episode of Time About the Movies, we're heading back into the world of paranormal activity with the third installment of the series, going back to the beginning of it all, setting 18 years prior to the events of the first two movies with Paranormal Activity 3. Not only is Paranormal Activity back, but Johnny English is back as well. Rowan Atkinson stars in the sequel that some might say people weren't really asking for. I mean, the first one was fun, but this one, we'll talk about it. Johnny English Reborn. We also have, I can remember the other movie here, but before we talk about Johnny English, we have Paul W.S. Anderson whoring out his wife again, and he's literally whoring his wife out with this new Three Musketeers movie. Then we'll take a look at Johnny English Reborn, and then we'll take a look at Elizabeth Olsen with her big breakout role, Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, and we also have Kevin Clash, Before the Dark Times, in Being Elmo, A Puppeteer's Journey, a documentary about the life of Kevin Clash himself. 5 films to take a look at today on October 21st, 2011. This is Time About the Movies.
Kids do weird things. Katie used to get up in the middle of the night.
Watch this.
Oh my god. Chrissy, remember standing in the doorway for a really long time? No.
It's scary, right? It says kids are susceptible to spiritual contact.
Who are you talking to?
Julia, you okay? Paranormal Activity 3, rated R. Theaters everywhere, October 21st.
Welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the 5 films that make up October 21st, 2011. And this is the first movie that we have here, obviously. It's the big one, Paranormal Activity 3. As I mentioned before, this is a prequel to the first two movies, as it takes place 18 years prior to the events of the first two movies, where we're following two young kids, the two young kids that would eventually be the subjects of the first two movies, Katie and Christy, as they were little kids growing up in 1988. They find all this they record all this VHS footage, and they realize that something is wrong in their house when one of the daughters has an imaginary friend named Toby that arrives, and of course Toby is the main demon that will be coming up in the next couple of in the Paranormal Activity movies later on down the road, and we see how this whole thing got started. And you know, this is directed by the guys who did Catfish. This is their first big horror film, and what a difference it makes having them coming into this movie. This is probably overall the best Paranormal Activity movie of the series, because we get a good representation of the origin story of how this all took place. There are legitimately creepy scenes. The one that they don't show you here in the commercial is, you know, the one that showed the trailer for, where they legitimately people got pissed off. Maybe not pissed off as they did with with the last movie, because with Paranormal Activity 2, the big thing was that they showed a trailer in front of Twilight Eclipse, and people got angry at the studio because it scared the teenage audiences, which boo-hoo. That's called a horror movie. But the trailer I'm talking about here is a great teaser trailer where you see the two kids, they go into the bathroom, shut the lights off, and go like, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, and then all of a sudden, you know, they go out the room and you still see the demon behind them when the camera's on. Like, that's still a legitimately good, chilling scene, and there's a lot of that in this movie, and there's a lot of those scares that do work in here, and it does a good job of, like I said, putting together the pieces from the first two movies and making it seem like we have a connection here with all three of these films. This is the last great thing I think Paranormal Activity ever did before they pretty much ran out of ideas with the next movie the next year and just said, fuck it, we're just going to do another family that has nothing to do with the original movies, but hey, people want to go see these films. And yeah, this one ended up being a massive, massive success overall, for good reasons, because it was freaking awesome. It was a really good movie, a really terrifying movie, and it works to the advantages of what the film was trying to accomplish. This is a perfect example of, if this series ended with just this last film, you would have had a really good trilogy of movies, but sadly, because they kept continuing to make these movies, excuse me, sorry about that, but because they continued to make these movies, they took a really great trilogy and just turned it into a dead horse that kept getting beat up every other couple of years. And yeah, the next film starts that horrible downward trend. So this did not become the next great Saw franchise like it did before, like the Saw franchise did, but I mean, it was popular for a couple of years, but at least it ended. At least the story at least kind of ends on a good note here with Paranormal Activity 3. But once again, like I said, it really doesn't end on a good. It really doesn't end right here because this went on to become a massive success. So Paramount said, get another one out for next Halloween. We don't care if this is wrapping up the storyline here. Do you see the money this shit is making? Give us it now, But don't worry, Paramount will have yet another horror franchise they'll try to start off with in a couple months from now with The Devil Inside, and let's just say that, not so much. But Paranormal Activity 3, really good movie, really good, well done, easily the best of the Paranormal Activity movies, no question about it. So yeah, Paranormal Activity 3. So let's go ahead and move on to the other big sequel this weekend, and that's Rowan Atkinson starring as, once again, Johnny English in Johnny English Reborn.
The world's greatest spy.
Good concentration English.
Sorry?
He's an expert in martial arts. And a master of disguise. From the producers of Mr. Bean.
Has anyone seen the voice-changing candy?
Johnny English Reborn. In theaters this October. Rated PG.
So as you can see, Rowan Atkinson's once again back as the accidental secret agent who doesn't know fear or danger and the most unlikely intelligence officer in Her Majesty's Secret Service. He must stop a group of international assassins before they eliminate a world leader and cause global chaos. In the years since MI7's top spy vanished over the grid, he's been honing his unique skills in a remote region of Asia, but when his agent superiors learn of an attempt against the Chinese premier's life, they must hunt down the highly unorthodox agent. Now the world needs him once again. Johnny English is back in action. With one shot of redemption, he must employ the latest in high-tech gadgets to unravel a web of conspiracies that run throughout the KGB, CIA, and even MI7. With a mere few days until a heads of state conference, one man must use every trick in his playbook to protect us all. For Johnny English, disaster may be an option, but failure never is. Like I said, the first movie was a fun movie. It works because it knows how silly it can be. It knows how ridiculous it can be. It's a film that works very well to its advantages. It's a really fun movie overall. And the last time Rowan Atkinson did a sequel that some might say was kind of unnecessary, it turned into Mr. Bean's Holiday, and it was actually a really good film. This one, not so much. I mean, give Rowan Atkinson credit. He is trying his best with this movie. He really is doing a lot of the fun aspects of the film in general. There is a lot to admire about him in this. Got a good cast overall in here. You've got Gillian Anderson from The X-Files, Rosamund Pike in here as well, Richard Schiff, Dominic West, one of the big names, early role for Daniel Kaluuya, who of course later would go on to star in Get Out and win an Oscar for Judas and the Black Messiah. The cast overall here is fine. The jokes are kind of iffy at best. There's just, I mean, it really does feel like an unnecessary comedy sequel because they really add nothing new to the table that hasn't been there, that wasn't in there in the previous movie. Like, he's kind of regressed a little bit since the last film, and it's just kind of like, why even bother doing that? Just like I don't get it with comedy sequels like that. Like, we gotta dumb the characters back down to where they were in the first movie, and it's absolutely pointless. Like, why even bother to do that? But like I said, to its credit, it's not a terrible movie. It's just not a sequel that really feels necessary overall. I mean, like I said, the first one works on its own merits. The second one just feels like we made it because there's an audience for it. And, you know, the Brits love Rowan Atkinson. They made this a massive hit and eventually led to another film coming out at the end of the decade in 2019 with Johnny English Strikes Again. Well, secondly, it came out in 2019 here in the States, but in the UK it came out the year before that in 2018, so that's why I got confused there. But you know, overall, Johnny English Reborn, not great, not bad either, just okay. So with all that said, and I realized I just did it again. I went straight to Johnny English Reborn because I completely forgot about the movie that was in between them. But let's be honest, I think you can pretty much sum up my thoughts on The Three Musketeers from Paul W.S. Anderson.
The last line of defense. War will engulf the entire continent. Only we can prevent the coming apocalypse. You want to be a musketeer? This is your chance.
Well, we don't have all night.
The Three Musketeers. All for one.
One for all.
Rated PG-13. Starts October 21st.
Yes, we get it, Paul W.S. Anderson. You're married to Mila Jovovich. You're married to a beautiful-looking woman. That doesn't mean you have to continuously throw her in our faces for your god-awful movies. And this really is somehow even worse than the Resident Evil movies are. Like, that's how bad this movie is. So after failing to steal Leonardo da Vinci's airship blueprints, the Musketeers are disbanded by Cardinal Richelieu, leaving Athos, Porthos, and Aramis on the streets of Paris. In the meantime, young, reckless, ambitious D'Artagnan has set off from Gascony with dreams of becoming a musketeer himself, not realizing that they have been disbanded. In no time, D'Artagnan manages to offend Athos, Porthos, and Aramis on different occasions and challenges them all to duels. But before the duels can take place, they are attacked by guards who try to arrest them for illegal dueling. The ex-musketeers and D'Artagnan fight off the soldiers, leading to the four men becoming a band with the motto, all for one and one for all. Count Richelieu is not only determined to be rid of the Musketeers, but also schemes with Athos's former lover, Milady, to undermine the reign of King Louis and his wife. The Musketeers and D'Artagnan are determined to save the royal family and France itself, and blah 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 blah. Look at my hot wife. Like, that's literally the entire movie. Milla Jovovich literally steals the movie because her friggin' director husband puts her at the focus of this movie. It's not even the Three Musketeers when you really look at it. It's four guys. Like, you have Logan Lerman, who's the young guy that's trying to get these guys together, Matthew McFadden, Ray Stevenson, Luke Evans. Yeah, it's them. And then we gotta throw in Milla Jovovich's character because she's fucking the director. I mean, that's literally the only reason why she's even in this movie, honestly. Because if this wasn't directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, it would have not been her in this role. In fact, her role would have been substantially reduced. But no, because she's banging the director, we gotta write a substantial role for her in this. And I'm sorry, I don't care. I don't care what people think about Milla Jovovich. I do not like this actress's work. She's not a good actress at all. She's probably a wonderful person in real life, but I'm sorry, she sucks. She sucks as an actress, plain and simple. Like, but hey, to her credit, she called out the studio for not promoting the film properly. She literally said she criticized them for not promoting the film as a family film in the U.S., which, I mean, it really isn't supposed to be that, but. You know, she said she doesn't know what she's talking, and someone basically said she doesn't know what she's talking about, and we don't know where she's coming from. Wouldn't you think she would call us first about this? It's frustrating. It's not the right way to behave. If she has a problem, then come to the studio and talk about it. Like, dude, you made a Three Musketeers movie where she's the literal focal point of the entire marketing campaign. Like, you did that to yourself. Like, this whole movie is such a clustered mess of a film, wasting all this talent they have in here. Because I haven't mentioned people like Luke Evans, Mads Mikkelsen, Juno Temple, Christoph Waltz, Orlando Bloom, Till Schweiger. A lot of good people in this movie, but sadly, because it's Paul W.S. Anderson, he has to find some way to cram his wife into a major storyline that is completely unnecessary, and it's only there because, you know, they're banging. This movie sucks. This is a terrible movie. Nothing about it works. The action is terrible. The writing is terrible. What more do you got? What more do I need to say any more? It's a terrible movie. Honestly, if I could not talk about this movie, and you would probably already know it's terrible. Like, this is the first time in the history of doing the show that I honestly forgot that this was in between Paranormal Activity 3 and Johnny English Reborn. But like I said, it really doesn't matter what I would say about that, because you all know how terrible this movie is. Like, it was quickly forgotten immediately after it came out. Like, nobody gave a shit about this movie. So yeah, why should I? So with that said, let's get back to some good movies. Let's go ahead and move on to Elizabeth Olsen with her big breakout role in the indie film Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene.
Martha, where are you? Upstate, I think. Find out where you are and I will come get you. I can't wait that long. Do you ever have that feeling where you can't tell if something's a memory or if it's something you dream? We all have to leave. What happened to you? I don't know.
Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, rated R, and select theaters October 21st.
That's where the talent went in that family. Of course, Elizabeth Olsen is the sister of Mary Kay and Ashley Olsen, who made a ton of money back in the 90s and early 2000s for their work on Full House, but we all know that the real talent went to their sister Elizabeth, Which is funny because it's kind of the same thing with Rob Schneider. Where did the talent go in that family? To her daughter. She's had a successful singing career, but that's beside the point. In this movie, Olsen plays a young woman who suffers from PTSD after fleeing a violent and sexually abusive cult commune in the Catskill Mountains. She also is joined by John Hawkes, pretty good actor from Winter's Bone, Sarah Paulson, Hugh Danzy. This is directed by Sean Durkin, his directorial debut, and I don't know what else he's done. He actually has done some stuff that I do remember now. He did The Iron Claw with Zac Efron. He did Dead Ringers for Amazon, the series based off the Jeremy Irons movie. So he has done some stuff that I'm familiar with in general. And overall, pretty good movie to show that, hey, there's a lot of potential in the people involved in this, especially with Elizabeth Olsen delivering a knockout, breakout performance in this film that really makes you go, like I said, that's where the talent went in that family, because she knocks it out of the park in this movie. It's literally, as the critical quote says in there, it's a Star is Born type of a performance that really is something that definitely deserves recognition and deserves to be seen as a truly great film. It is a very good film overall, and it works because of that great performance by Elizabeth Olsen, and because you're so compelled by this character and her journey through this thing that she's been going through. And yeah, you keep getting invested throughout the course of the film, and it just sticks with you all the way to the very end. Like, not much more I can really add to this film that hasn't been said already. It's a pretty damn good movie, and has kind of gotten passed over, mostly because Elizabeth Olsen's done much bigger and better things since then, but it's definitely a film worth checking out. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend checking out Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here, and it's probably the best overall movie this week, and it is Being Elmo, A Puppeteer's Journey.
When I was 9 years old, it was just a dream that I had. Wow, I wish that I could work with the Muppets. Hello. Hi, this is Kevin Clash from Sesame Street. How are you?
Kevin is most comfortable when he is Elmo.
Thank you for coming. Kiss, 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 kiss. Elmo's happy now.
Hi. How many kids went out and built their own puppets? He was in high school.
He had guys that would pick on him, said he was playing with dolls.
He faced a lot of opposition, but he just stuck with his dream. If I could have climbed on the set of Sesame Street, I would have tried it. And I thought, who is creating this?
Hello there. My name is Jim Henson, and I'm a puppeteer.
I wanted to see everything that Jim was doing. This is who I would like to be.
He jumped from high school right to New York.
Richard Hunt was totally fed up with his character, tossed him in Kevin's lap.
What am I going to do with him? And I said,
Hello, this is Elmo.
Fine, give it a try.
And then I got it. I knew that Elmo should represent love.
It's always great to see this before you see the darker element of this guy's storyline. Even though technically he was eventually dismissed of all the charges because the statutes of limitations had passed, and it didn't really destroy his career in the end, because he did eventually go back to working for Jim Henson's company, and has been there ever since. So really, his career really hasn't suffered all that much since then, but this is still a really fascinating documentary about Kevin Clash, somebody that you may not be familiar with, but he's mostly known as the voice of Elmo, but he's also done a lot of puppeteer work for Jim Henson's company, and especially with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies that Henson worked on back in the 90s. But this is a documentary chronicling the journey of puppeteer Kevin Clash, the unlikely voice and mastermind behind Elmo, focusing on his childhood dreams and early career in Baltimore, and it covers his first meeting with Jim Henson, the creator, of course, of Sesame Street, puppet maker Kermit Love, and documents his journey to success. Sesame Street cameraman James Miller originally filmed Kevin Clash with Elmo looking at photos of his 2-year-old daughter, and after showing the footage to Constant Marks, the director of this movie, she started thinking maybe this would be a good documentary, seeing the performer behind the Muppet. They brought the idea to Kevin Clash, who thought it would be a great opportunity to talk and work about the work he loves. And it's narrated by Whoopi Goldberg. You also have a lot of Jim Henson's people that worked with him on this, and also a bunch of archival footage from various celebrities. And it's a really good documentary. It's a nice put together documentary, and all those accusations that he had in the middle of the decade aside, the guy is a really talented dude. This is a guy that had passion for his work early on. This is something that he wanted to do from the very beginning, and it shows in this film. It's a really fascinating film to watch in general, and it's not the typical. It really is not like the typical documentary. This is up there with some of those great documentaries like Conan O'Brien Can't Stop, Waking Sleeping Beauty, and Howard, that goes against the documentary norm. which means that the documentary branch of the Academy Awards decided, no, we're not going to nominate you for any big awards at the Academy Awards because you're just too good for our expertise. But yeah, fucking idiots. I mean, I'm sorry, I still can't get over for what they did with Hoop Dreams, but I digress. This is supposed to be a heartfelt review here, okay? But yeah, for a really good movie, that is a very good heartfelt documentary about a guy that clearly loved his work, and it shows on screen here. It definitely shows everything that this guy does. He was putting a lot of passion into it, and he loved doing what he did so much. And you know, you see that the kids take to him when he plays the character of Elmo. It's like when they see Elmo, they don't see the guy who's playing the puppet. It's a very, very fascinating film to watch in general, and it really does show that, you know, say what you will about whatever the guy did in the past, but the guy is still very passionate about his work overall, and he makes it work to a T. And you know, it's good to see that he's still doing this stuff even after all the things that happened to him. And it's just, like I said, man, not much more to really add to this, but it's just a fascinating documentary to watch. Definitely one of the best documentaries I've ever seen, and one that, you know, like I said, with everything that he had aside with him, it kind of got pushed off to the side, but it's definitely worth a rewatch again. It's definitely well worth checking out. I highly recommend it. Being Elmo, A Puppeteer's Journey, definitely worth a watch. And with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and the next time we meet, we take a look at Halloween weekend, where DreamWorks decides to take a bold step and push a movie up a week to Halloween week, which has not usually been very favorable to kids' films, and do it with the Shrek spin-off, Puss in Boots, with Antonio Banderas once again starring in the role from the Shrek films. We also have Justin Timberlake and Amanda Seyfried in the sci-fi thriller In Time. Johnny Depp returns into the role of Hunter S. Thompson for The Rum Diary, and Roland Emmerich tries to step away from his disaster movies with a movie similar to what he did with The Patriot, with Anonymous. Does it work? We'll find out tomorrow when we look at those films. With all that said, though, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please go ahead and do me the honor of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. And also, don't forget to check out the playlist, and don't forget to check out the last episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.